Hello, everybody, and welcome on into a very special, exciting episode because I am joined by Adam J. Harrington, who plays Sindri, God of War Ragnarok, and God of War as well. I'm super excited to talk to you. Thank you so much for being here. This is incredible. How are you feeling?
I feel good, Abhi. Thank you so much for having me on.
That's amazing. Uh, the God of War Ragnarok, everybody's loving it. I played the game, I finished it, and it was such an insane journey. And everywhere I go, everywhere I see, whoever has played it, they loved it so much from start to finish. Um, and especially for Sindri, the love of Sindri is insane.
Mm.
I've seen all over the Twitter, like everybody loves Sindri so much, and all the other characters. What do you feel about that love that or that reception that you have gotten from the game?
Uh, it's overwhelming. It's when you get to work on something that kind of has an emotional impact and rises above, and when you see how not just that people have enjoyed it, but it's meant something to it and they relate to it, and they relate personally to what the characters are going through, and it kind of touches the heart. That doesn't happen a lot. When it does, it's magical. And I'm just so grateful that I got to be a part of something that this is what it's become.
That's amazing. It's such a wonderful thing to see where when the game was about to come out, so many people are so excited. And when the game came out, a lot of people were like, I'm going off Twitter, I'm going off social, I gotta play this game. I cannot be spoiled. And I myself, like some of my friends were playing it. I was like, please don't. I have not got the game. They got review codes and I had to wait like a couple
Mm.
of days. I'm like, please just don't talk to me. So it was an extremely amazing moment. But did you ever thought that once you got the first game before this, 2018 God of War, did you ever thought that this game is going to be this big
No,
coming this point?
no, no. I don't know that you can. I don't know that you can plan for that.
Hmm.
I think you can have every confidence in the world that what you've produced and what Santa Monica Studios and Corey and Eric and Matt produced was good and solid. But then you never know how an audience or the fans or the gamers are going to respond to it. So, I mean, we all hoped it would do well, but when it becomes something greater than that, that's not about us. That's about the fans and the gamers. They take it on. They're the ones that make it that way.
Yeah, that's true. And they have made such a amazing this whole because of even the developers and you guys worked did such an amazing job that both of these games did so well. And I believe like this game is so much more grand than the first game,
Mm.
so much more dramatic, such amazing music, such amazing characters. I just loved every single second of it. But especially in this game, Sindri is has a very good, like from the first game till this game. I think Sindri's and Brok, they both are so helpful to Atreus and to Kratos, and we
Hmm.
see that here as well. But we see that relationship between Sindri and Atreus, and then we see what happens towards the end as well. So was there a challenge for you to play Sindri in this particular part of the game?
So I didn't know when we shot 2018. I didn't want to know a lot.
Mm.
I think when I met with them and I got the job, I said, I want to know what I need to know for this game. If you want to tell me something, tell me. But if there's stuff you don't want to tell me, don't tell me. But I'd always approached Sindri. I think he's got a wonderful sense of humor. I think he's got a huge heart. Um, I think he's just who he is. I think whether he can help it himself or not, he wears on his sleeve all the characteristics that we don't want people to see. He's sensitive, he's needy, he loves big, he's an insecurity, and he's a germaphobe, and he's anxious, but without knowing anything before going into 2018, I wanted that to reflect the human nature of that, is that sometimes people with that degree of germophobia, it's based in a trauma, or it's a need to be in control. So although I didn't know anything, and although it may have never come to fruition, I always thought, well, that's something I can latch on to and I can relate to, as all of us can. And I thought his sense of humor and his way of coping with it. So even if you never found out why he was like that, it was kind of there. So when I went into this game and I sat down with Eric and Matt and they told me what the arc of it was, first of all, it just punched me in the gut what was going to happen to Brock. But it allowed me to kind of go with how I'd approached Sindri and take it from there. And that I thought, okay, well, there's already been a trauma, and and then of course, as you find out, it's probably related to that.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, luck, and it just fit. Um, but I was excited, and then I just thought I was going to throw up because I thought it was an incredible story, and I thought, and for people to see how much they love each other and how much family matters, and how beloved Brock was,
Mm.
and the responsibility to tell the love for him that Sindri's got and and the gamers have. Um, but then I felt the oi. Now I owe it. I owe it to the story, and I owe it to the people that are going to buy this to try to really pull it off.
Mhm. Yeah, and that moment right there with Sindri and Brok was so surprising, was so shocking,
Yeah.
and my I was playing it and my mom saw me and like what's happening? Like just go. It's just I can't. So it's just like that moment. And what
Yeah.
was it like when you first got to know that this is how the story is gonna go with Brock and this is how it's all gonna go?
Uh, I mean, I didn't really go near it a lot. I knew it was going to happen, and we saw the script, and I didn't really go near it a lot because I just it's just unbearable. It's just unimaginable what he's going through, knowing that, and now we're going to get into spoilers, that his brother is dying, and that he's not going to go to his to Valhalla or heaven or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and that Sindri's a part of that. I mean, it's unimaginable. It's just unimaginable, and I think that's what I always wanted to tap into with Sindri, so that everybody could relate to it. Is just the humanity of it, and how we all, I mean, how we all relate to that, and how you might respond to that in healthy and unhealthy ways. So I didn't really go near it. And then when we got there, I don't remember much of it. I don't think we did very many takes. It was a huge scene
Mm.
because of that single camera.
Yeah.
So Richard Schiff was there, and the entire cast was there, Daniel and Chris and Sonny and Alistair and Ben. And I think they broke it up into smaller sections as much as they could, but I don't know that we did very many takes of it. Um, yeah.
It was such an emotional scene for sure. And after that, the whole thing changed. Like Sindri's, the way we know Sindri just completely changed. It became so, and it's obvious. Like he just lost his brother.
Hmm.
I like he just lost him. So obviously his mindset, his mind is completely elsewhere, and maybe he
Yeah.
will make some rash decision or whatnot. So when we got to see how he was not willing to forgive Atreus and not willing to
Hmm.
let this just it's not come on, you cannot one cannot let go. So that
Yeah.
relationship change was so
Hmm.
heartbreaking for me, for everybody else as well. But this relationship with Atreus and Sindri is so great in this game. It's really cool. So what do you think about how their bonding is formed, especially like it was Atreus and Sindri. Atreus and Brock have that bonding, but I feel like Sindri is so much
Hmm.
more special and so much more closer. What do you feel like about their bond being there in this particular game and
Yeah.
explored?
Well, going into it, I was really looking forward to Sonny. He was great and prepared, and came in with questions, and just I had so much fun working with him and creating that relationship. Like, he had a nickname for Sindri, and Sindri could never figure out a nickname to call him back. I thought that was cute. But I think, with grief, there's so much there's just so much wrapped up in there. There's grief, there's shame, there's rage. And I think when you see Atreus come to Sindri at Tyr's temple afterwards, it's they're both immature in ways. It's like this game, they both kind of grow up. I think Sindri, with Brok's death before 2018, you're already dealing with someone who's damaged and traumatized. So the way you meet Sindri in that game is already a result of him probably having risked his life to save his brother once. Um, he has a sense of humor and he is fun loving, but he tries to block it out. And I think in this game, in some ways, he's, you know, Atreus is growing up and discovering things that he's never dealt with before. And Sindri is in some ways blocking out things he has dealt with before. So they're kind of, Sindri's very nurturing to him, but they're kind of also both um, childlike
Yeah.
in wanting to hang on. And I think that was a lot of fun. And then of course when Brok dies, Atreus tries to come and forgive, but Sindri's not ready to hear that yet. It's Atreus also trying to, through his own, trying to quell his own feelings, and Sindri's not ready. So when people are saying, oh, he's so angry at them, I think what's beautiful is a lot of people that have been responding that somebody alerted me to on the message boards is their understanding of grief and loss. The number of people that just said, well, we don't know that he's angry or he won't forgive. He's just angry and ashamed and in denial and rageful and trying to focus. And the thing that about the change, what they told me was that Sindri would take off his gloves and that he would use Brok's hammer. So the hammer he's using is Brok's. He takes it over. And I think sometimes in grief or in loss, people, they take on the characteristics of the person that's gone as a way to keep them alive.
Yeah.
If they did crossword puzzles, they start doing crossword puzzles, or they watch the same shows to keep them alive. And I thought with Sindri, it's so unimaginable that he in his own way takes on Brok, that I wanted it to change in his physicality and his voice, that the rage and everything also was using the idea of Brok and how Brok lived to kind of power Sindri and to hang on to him as well. I think I just talked myself into a segue. I'm not sure.
Oh man, no, that's perfect. It's just such a heartbreaking moment for Sindri, and I never wanted that to happen. It's like when that moment happened, I was like, why, man? Never wanted
Yeah.
Sindri to go in that way because
Oh,
it's crazy. Because his eyes are all red, and he's like,
oh,
oof,
yeah. And again, shooting it. I mean, it's like I said, it's absolutely unimaginable to try to go through that, to
yeah,
know that you have a part in your brother's death
that's
and
right.
the choice made all those times ago that, he jumps into the lake of souls and
Mhm.
to try to get all the pieces back, but he only gets three. But
Yeah,
then there's a choice. I can revive Brock almost perfect, or now I'm the one who would be killing him.
right.
And that choice, even though that he's not alone. Anyway, it was, and the line that just breaks me at the end, which I don't remember hearing when we shot it, was Atreus saying, I thought we were his family," and
Yeah.
Kratos saying we were. Oh,
Oh,
just guts me. Just guts me.
it kills me too.
Beautifully acted by them. Beautifully acted, especially when Sonny had all the blocking to work
Mm.
to make that single camera work. He
Yeah,
was the one having to move
move
around, and
around.
man, he was so there. I just remembered, shooting stuff like that. You're so lucky when you have good acting partners because it's all in their eyes.
Mm.
You just have to just connect with them, and they just elevate it.
Yeah, that's true. They did such a great job, and you mentioned like those blocking when he was moving from one
Mhm.
side to the other because of the camera. It was so good, and man, everybody does such a great job and acting
Yeah,
wise, so incredible. Music and everything
yeah.
is so great.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I don't. I think maybe we did one or two takes of that scene. Maybe three for to figure out the positioning, but they were really. the Eric and Matt and the gang, they were really wonderful when we had to shoot those.
Yeah. Every scene I
Yeah.
think was like one shot scenes was done so well. There's so much so many
Yeah.
long scenes, and it's done so well. I'm like that. I just it blows my mind how it's seamless and
Yeah.
so crazy. But you know, you mentioned about all these scenes. Were you able to see all of your scenes, or did you ever try to play the game yourself?
I I didn't grow up a gamer,
Mm,
so that when the technology came along, I was already a little long in the tooth, I think. So I tried. I did a game once years ago and I tried to play it and it was horrible. But luckily enough, so no, I didn't see any of the game until people started posting on YouTube. So
mm.
so that's where I watched it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome though. But is it easier for you to see your own scenes? Like I know a lot of actors they don't watch their own scenes because either they over
Yeah.
criticize, over judge themselves. But is it that
Yeah.
case, or do you like it's okay to watch?
Uh I think sometimes you watch, not to necessarily watch your own stuff, but to see what your friends did and your colleagues did, and I think even more in this game, when I was able to watch some of the cutscenes, I wanted to hear Bear's music. I wanted to see what the animation, the story they told. Like in the death scene, you
Yeah.
realize that the entire background fades away
Yeah, it does.
and you can't see the room anymore. And I just thought that was a beautiful way to tell the story, where in that moment it's really just about the two of them, that everybody fades away. And I wanted to see that, and of course, just the spectacle of how beautiful the game looked, and how everything just came together in the narrative. And for watching this, I wanted to see if what we did worked, but I was more excited to see what everybody else had done, because when we're shooting it, we're in the middle of a big empty and covered in dots, and
Yeah.
we've got cameras getting in between us and the other actor, and
That is a
yeah.
weird thing itself. Like, do you feel that weirdness? Like, there's a camera and you have to imagine so much, but obviously you have actors that support you, but you have to imagine so much, but there's this weirdness in front of you. You cannot go so close.
My experience with that kind of stuff is standing on a set in front of a green screen and having a director tell you what you're imagining to see is so much harder than even just having another actor there, and you and the other actor are reacting to what you're seeing on screen, but you have
Mm.
each other to play off of. So that was wonderful. But I remember when we were shooting the death scene, uh, Robert, who is incredible, and we got to be really good friends on the first one. So that alone, that plot line, it was quite easy to play the reality of that plot line, and he did it so beautifully. But anyway, we did one, and I just had that thought afterward. They called cut, and I was like, man, that felt it, boy, I felt it. Yeah, that's good. And they're all huddled over the monitor watching it really closely, and I'm like, oh yeah, this blew them away. They can't even speak. And then they walk over, and the camera rigs had gotten in the way
Oh,
of each other's face. So they were figuring out at the monitor. I thought Robert and I were like, yeah, we crushed this. They're gonna love it. They're gonna come over. They're all probably bawling their eyes out, and they came over and they're like, yeah, your camera rigs got stuck together. So it's the whole thing was off. So,
oh no.
which was fine, because we delivered something that wasn't the best one anyway. But it's just those moments where you forget about the realities of that and working with it. But then we figured it out. But I just remember we just looked at each other and we were like, "Oh yeah, we're just rock stars, aren't we?" Yeah, yeah,
Oh my God, yeah.
yeah,
That those moments like would be so crazy. And I can only just imagine how many more times like even other actors had those moments where the cameras are touching or something is off and
yeah,
then you have to reshoot the
yeah,
whole thing again. And
yeah. They,
especially if there's a long scene.
yeah. It's, you know what? It's not too bad, and they're great about it. And the cameras, actually, the technology is better, and it doesn't really get in the way before. But in that scene particularly, because we were so close to each
Mm,
other
yeah,
and wanted to be, and they wanted to make sure that we could, look at each other and have that feel real.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I saw we already know that Sindri loves like obviously loves Brok and likes Atreus a lot. He's scared of Kratos a little bit, but in 2018, even in this game, he's scared of Kratos. He's scared of like he's very anxious, as he mentioned. Who do you think Sindri? apart from Brok and Atreus, likes the most?
I think what I love so much about Sindri is how much he loves. And I
Mm,
think it showed. I don't know if you could say he loves one person any more than other. I think Atreus was really his friend,
yeah, that's
was
true.
really his truest friend, as well as trying to, mother him a bit or just be there for him. But he really was, apart from Brock. If Brock was his brother, Atreus was his friend.
Yeah,
Um, I believe the only one he ever bows to is Freya,
mm, that he
shows her
does.
that respect. I think, yeah, I just think it showed. I think what they did so beautifully with that house, that he built this house in the realm between. He built a house in a safe spot for everybody, and then they just kept coming in, and he just kept saying yes and yes. I think Eric Williams said it in an interview that to him, Sindri's like the giving tree, which is a
Yeah,
Shell Silverstein, I think it's how you say his last
right.
name, where they just
Yeah, I think
they
so.
just taking from the tree until he's a stump. Um, I think with Kratos, I think he's the only one who truly understands what Sindri, that Sindri understands that Kratos knows what he's going through on
Yeah,
some level, which I think is, for me anyway, was the confrontation at the end, that he stands against him, but he doesn't raise his fists,
mm.
which is what he did the very first time they met. And then I just remember you can't, you sometimes if you're upset or in a rage or whatever it is, and somebody looks at you and you can't run from it anymore, because they're just standing there saying, I
Yeah,
know what's really going on. Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
One more thing that I
Sure.
saw in like the first game, we mentioned like how, and we saw her here, like Faye was present in this game, and how Sindri was mentioned, like, okay, he knew her. He
Mm-hmm.
obviously met her, and he was so shocked to know that she died in that time.
Yes.
And we saw Faye, and Kratos would see
Mm-hmm.
in like in dreams and stuff. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think if for some reason somehow Faye was alive and would come back and Sindri would see her? What would you think his
Mm.
reaction would be? Would he just freak out like, no way?
No comment.
No, crap. Which means that
That's
Faye is probably returning.
that's I no comment. I think the audio just went out. I don't did you just ask a question? Can't answer. Said.
Okay. Well, looks like there's some hinting going on over there.
And quite honestly, the writers on this game are so extraordinary. So I don't know what he would say, because I greater minds than mine can come up with that.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
Well, I know this. You have done such an amazing job. Everybody has done such an amazing job, and every time, like I for one was a little bit interested in like, oh, voice acting could be really fun. It's just there's small interest there, but obviously there's much more to do. It's just not like, oh, you just
Mm.
voice in a game. There's like you have to learn, you have to study. It's an art, and a lot of people also see sometimes in a way like, oh, let's just be a voice actor, just go in a video game, be
Mm.
popular, and so. But that's not the case. So what would be your tips for somebody who is trying to go into this voice acting journey, or what would be the best tips that you think that people should know?
I would say if they're just starting out, get in a voice class.
Mhm.
And because that's something that somebody can do anywhere.
Yeah.
You can get into voice classes online. Um, you can buy books and tapes to make it even less expensive. But it's what you're using. It would be like if you wanted to become a trumpet player, well, you're going to have to buy a trumpet. It becomes your own instrument. So I would say that. I think voice acting, especially now the way video games are going, is they're kind of like movies that you can play.
Mhm.
So I think acting is an important component. And there's, you know, cheap ways to expensive ways. I think a lot of film schools have to do films to graduate, and that's how I started. There was a film school in the city I was in, and they need actors, and you do it for free, but it gets you experience and it gets you footage and you start to learn, and then acting classes. So that my I never went to school for this professionally. I never was had that opportunity be able to afford it or whatever. So I just kind of learned as I went, but it was from just trying to find whatever I could to learn and going from there. And I think maybe there are some people that just naturally fall into it. They've got this incredible voice and they just go. But after a while, you have to have, what do they say? You have to have talent about your talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That. Well, that's
Yeah.
it.
And
That's
that's
it.
the nice thing these days, well, because of the pandemic, it's really opened up the world of Zoom and
Hmm.
doing this and stuff like that. So there are things available to people that weren't before, especially if people aren't in a big city or near a big metropolis.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Now all of this online is available, so it's much more easier. Well, I just want
Yeah,
to go with one last question over here, and
absolutely. I've
that is
got time.
something that I myself struggle with a lot, and I think that it's going to be something a lot of people I know also struggle with. Is that feeling that anxious moment or being nervous whenever you go into uh, whether it's any kind of job or whatever, but especially
Mm.
in a place where like yours, especially in your career where you are acting, and do you ever feel that anxious? Do you ever feel that
Oh,
nervousness, or like it's easier for you, or do you have any tricks or tips that you
oh my
utilize?
gosh. Always, always. Never goes away. The second you think you've got it, comes back. Yeah. But I was reminded by somebody once, I think it was Stella Adler, who is an acting, very
Yeah,
well-known acting coach in New York, came in the 40s and 50s. And this was specific to acting, but I think it really applies to anything, is that, actors are designed to act, not wait. So she said, of course, if you're in the wings, whatever that may be, you don't know what you're supposed to do next. So that's when the brain starts to go crazy.
yeah,
And, famous actors I think famous actors that threw up backstage before they went on because they don't know what to do net yet. But once they get out on stage, then they get to act, they get to have an action. And I kind of, I, that really resonated with me. And I think that applies to anything. It's like, I think most people have done this when you've done running races as a kid and it's
yeah,
mark, get set, go. Well, when you're in get set, that's when the anxiety is the worst. When
yeah,
go hits, you stop thinking and you just go. So I think the way I've tried to deal with anxiety is do my work really hard, and then trust that it will let it all go and just trust that it will happen and just try to stay in the moment. And I think a lot of times anxiety is actually ambition. You're excited and you want to do well. And I
yeah,
don't think there's anything, I think that's a wonderful thing, especially in any career that's competitive. There's part of that anxiety is actually, for me anyway, it's just recognizing that I'm excited and I want what I'm about to do and I want to do well, as opposed to, I think sometimes always think that anxiety is about failure. No, I'm going to screw it up. I'm going to do this. But, I think there's a part of that that's no,
yeah.
I want to crush this.
Yes,
I
I
want to
have the
do
same
well.
things. Yeah, but
Yeah. How do you
sometimes,
deal with it?
oh, my dealing capabilities are very bad. Like I am horrible at like dealing with it. It usually sometimes it overcomes me, and I'm not able to do the job that I want to do. Like for example, even today, I was like literally 5 minutes before I was going to get in call with you. I was super nervous, but I know I was excited about it because this is a great opportunity for me. And I wanted to talk to someone who is in a part of a video game, and it's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
So
And
that
and
was there.
likewise, getting to talk to you. So here's my question then. Once we started talking, were you still anxious?
Not at all. It's just the
Why?
moment we just
Yeah.
set in, it's like
You
it
just
just
start
we just
you
go.
start doing your job.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the beauty. That's amazing. Like it's just
Yeah.
a so weird mind game, I think you can say. Like before the moment happens, you have like so many like oceans of questions. Like it's just like so many things going through your head, but none of them is
Yeah.
really doesn't matter. You have to just
Yeah.
start somewhere. You have to start, and things will just come into place, and you'll
Yeah.
figure things out as you go.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think the other thing too is with anxiety, it's so human.
Mhm.
We all have it.
Yeah.
I don't believe people that say they don't have anxiety. Maybe
Mm,
they've learned how to manage it, or maybe they don't want to admit it in themselves, but everybody gets anxious.
yeah,
Everybody. No
yeah,
matter no matter where they are. And you can look at people and think, "Oh, they look so calm and they've got their stuff together," and you can, imagine the better life they're living and all that stuff. But anxiety is it's a absolutely imperfectly perfect human condition, and we all have it.
yeah. That's true. A lot
Yeah.
of people do say that, and I'm like, no, that's wrong. You are definitely having it. Just hide it. But
And then you do meet some people that they're like, "Oh, wow, you've worked through this." And they're like, "Yeah, I figured out a
yeah,
way to harness it."
yeah,
Or I think what sometimes is they just recognize that they do have anxiety. They are nervous. Of course I'm nervous. I'm about to do this.
yeah.
And then that kind of takes the poison out of it, I think.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
in the end, thank you so much for doing
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
This is incredible. I every time when I get to talk to someone who has played a video game, it's just so amazing for me that I get to talk to someone like you who has done such an incredible job in a video game like this, which has been so big. And in this whole month, like in the month of November, it's been such a big game, and everybody has
Yeah.
loved it so much. Everybody wants to play it. I know a few of my friends who don't have a PlayStation, they want to play it, so it's
Mm.
just such an incredible thing. So thank you so much for coming
Oh,
by.
you're very welcome. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you.